Our top story, a call for new tenant protections and some pushback from property owners. At a city council hearing yesterday, renters and housing advocates spoke in favor of a law to make evictions in Boston based on just cause. If a tenant refuses to pay a rent increase, the owner could only evict for that reason after going through mediation.
The whole issue is that housing is a human right and a human need, and that it's regarded by the real estate speculators and investors as a means of profit. And it being a means of profit, that right should not be stronger or should not nullify people's right and need to have a place to live. And
when landlord is trying to clearing up buildings, there's a lot of intimidation tactics that they would use to force people out because they want to turn around and rent the apartment out for someone who can afford much higher rent. So yes, so if there's a tracking system that we can get the right information to the tenants, and also for the city to look into irresponsible landlords, people who are actually taking advantage of working people of Boston.
Our landlord is trying to increase our rent to an amount that we cannot afford. It's me, my wife, and an 8-month-old baby. We feel as if he's doing it as retaliation simply because we called the city SID unit, and they fined him and made him repair a bunch of things in the house, including infestations of bed bugs, mice, and roaches.
Our city is losing hard-working tenants, people who have spent their entire lives here, raising families here, their kids are going to school here, they have jobs here, and they can't afford the high rents in Boston. So they're forced to move out due to no fault of their own. And we're just saying that that's wrong. It's a crisis, and it has to stop.
The more stable we can make buildings, the more stable we can make neighborhoods, the more stable we can make families, everyone wins. I'm not saying that folks that can't pay their rent or disturb the neighborhood or disturb their residents, there shouldn't be consequences. But I don't think destabilizing households for some additional resources is good for anyone.
When tenants know what their rights are, the risk of losing your home, the risk of having to go into emergency shelter, which only takes up public taxpayer money, is tremendous. And if tenants just have a little bit of access to their rights and they're connected to resources, that can be the difference between homelessness and a home.
Representatives for property owners said making evictions more difficult would mean less growth in housing supply.
You're going to change the way that rental housing happens in the Commonwealth. For example, landlords are going to be very weary about entering into tenancies at will with people because it's so hard to evict somebody. They can leave whenever they want, but it will take you years to evict somebody.
The problem of saying that it's not just cause when somebody can't afford the rent, I believe is actually telling everyone in the outside world that there's actually no just cause for doing business in Boston. And that is not a good thing.
Limiting a property owner's rights will, in the long run, reduce the production of housing in the city of Boston. When we start to constrain how a property owner can, what they can charge, what they can do to their property, how they can manage their expenses, you will start to create a situation that will reduce the production of housing in the long term.
This ordinance would actually change basic contract laws. This would say that even though the landlord has to comply with the lease, the tenant, as a matter of law, can violate their lease. At the end of the lease, they can hold over. They can go to mediation. They can be required to have extended periods of time before a landlord can even go to court to try to get them out. And I would suggest to you that that's not rent control, that's property control.